Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. In this video, I'm going to be counting down my top 5 Hell in the Cell matches. This Sunday is going to be WWE's Hell in the Cell 2014 pay-per-view. And in my mind, when WWE created the Hell in the Cell back in the day for the Shawn Michaels versus the Undertaker match, they really recreated the cage match. It's really hard to come up with any sort of, stipulation match that has any meaning that hasn't been done 1,000 times before. But I think when the Hell in the Cell first came into play, it was one of those things that when one of the wrestlers, was doing a promo and he said, "I will face you in the Hell in the Cell," it really used to mean something. And now here we are, 2009. They created their own Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. It's watered it down a little bit. You can look on the calendar and know what feud is going to be ending up in the Cell. Unlike a few years ago, one of the World Heavyweight Championship matches, they had a match inside the Hell in the Cell, and it was the first time these guys had squared off in their line of matches. It sort of didn't make sense. But in this video, we're going to be counting down my top 5 favorites. Let me know with a video response, or hit me up on the Twitter, or just leave a comment down below letting me know your top 5, and we'll talk a little Hell in the Cell. But now let's get down to the countdown. Number 5 on the list is going to go to Triple H and Undertaker at WrestleMania 28. Of course, Shawn Michaels was the special guest referee. This was the so-called end of an era match. Triple H wanted a rematch for his WrestleMania 27 defeat, where he almost had Undertaker in his grasps. Undertaker versus Triple H is one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time. It's right there with Kurt Angle going up against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21. But I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of questions about the Hell in the Cell match and what they did. When Shawn really wanted a rematch at WrestleMania 26, Undertaker made Shawn Michaels put his career up on the line. So when Undertaker gave a rematch to Triple H, why was it that he didn't ask for Triple H to put his career up on the line? That he just put the Hell in the Cell as sort of the thing that put it there. One of the reasons why the Hell in the Cell match from WrestleMania 28 really stands out to me was the fact that it wasn't a planned event. It wasn't that, it was on the calendar. October's pay-per-view is going to be Hell in the Cell. It really shocked me. I have a video up on YouTube of just me reacting to reading Twitter. I hadn't even seen it online. Basically, it was just me seeing people tweet about it, and I went into an hysterical mark-out moment that I will never forget. Just this constant laughing, thinking that WrestleMania 28 was going to be one of the best WrestleManias of all time. It was already stacked with Rock and Cena going at it for the first time there, and I really thought, man, I am really going to see something special. We had bought the platinum package in order to go to this. We sat 8th row, and man, it was one hell of a show. I will say that honestly, in my mind, this is a better match on DVD or on the WWE Network than it was live. Being there live and seeing the size of the structure of the Hell in the Cell and seeing these guys beat on each other is one thing, but when you get home and the camera is actually inside of the ring and you're actually seeing it all, hearing it all mic'd up, where you're hearing Triple H yell at Shawn Michaels as he is the special guest referee, that it's his job to stop the match. He's not going to stop beating on Undertaker, and this is going to be blood on Shawn's hands once this is all said and done. It was just the miracle comeback from Undertaker, where basically he was able to look Triple H in his eyes and basically tell him, it's over. I'm going to beat you right here. And then, as they get the 1, 2, 3, the pyro goes off, everybody scoops each other off the mat, and they give each other the big hug as they walk through the stage. I don't think anybody knew what the end of the era was when it first happened. Some people thought this would be the last time we saw all 3 of these guys as performers in WWE. Some people thought that it was just the last time that we were going to see people from the Attitude Era go at it inside of a WWE ring, and we would never see the collection of guys wrestling each other again. It was sort of like the promise as they went out the door. But I will never forget being at WrestleMania 28 and the Undertaker Hell in the Cell match. It's the only one that I've ever seen. I hope to see more and get them under my belts. But seeing a Hell in the Cell match was always something that I wanted to get off my wrestling bucket list, and I was glad I did. With number 5, It's Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee with Undertaker and Triple H. Number 4 on the list is going to come from the Bad Blood 2004 pay-per-view. One of my favorite rivalries of all time in WWE was always Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Shawn Michaels was the main event when he took Triple H under his wing, and everybody knew they were friends from the Clique. But it was really Shawn Michaels that really gave Triple H that moment of spotlight with DX, where he really came out of his shell and he got to ditch the Hunter Hearst Helmsley sort of gimmick and come from there. When Shawn Michaels lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14, it was Triple H that took over DX the next night on Monday Night Raw when he brought in his buddies, Triple H and the New Age Outlaws, and sort of took off D-Generation X in a new role. I mean, no longer were they the main event. They sort of were the guys that were in the mid-card, but definitely had a whole bunch of eyes on them with the Attitude Era. And in 2002, when Shawn decided it was time to come back to the WWE, it was Shawn that tried to recreate D-Generation X, telling Triple H that he should sign with the Monday Night Raw brand, and it was a reunion inside of the ring that lasted only about a minute before Triple H turned on Shawn Michaels, and then the feud that would be SummerSlam 2002 came, and they were blood rivals for a long time. I don't think they were ever really on the same page until 2005, when D-Generation X finally came back after the WrestleMania match with Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon, where then DX would go on and face the Spirit Squad and face the McMahons and so on and so forth from there on. But these guys, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, anytime they stepped in the ring, they had a real barn burner, I guess you can say, as Jim Ross would say. These guys just went all at it, knowing that they were two of the best, and they wanted to show everybody that they had it. And at Bad Blood 2004, these guys had a Hell in the Cell match. Bad Blood was sort of the same thing with 2003 and 2004. You knew when these pay-per-views rolled around, it was going to be a Hell in the Cell event. But, they really stepped up to the plate, and they were really able to knock it out of the park. Shawn Michaels and Triple H wrestled in the main event. And basically, from the time that the cell door was shut and the bell rang, the match was on with basically, Shawn Michaels taking the fight right to Triple H, running at him, knocking him over, and then just basically just doing everything he could to make sure that he had the advantage. Michaels was slamming Triple H's head into the steel cage. There was blood being, poured out from both of these guys, and they did everything under the sun, even a ladder through a table spot, and they really changed it up. I think that when I go back and I watch Hell in the Cell matches, Bad Blood 2004 is one of my favorite ones, not only for it being a Hell in the Cell match, just because that every time you knew Shawn Michaels and Triple H got into the ring, it was going to be a damn good one. But with number 4, it's going to be Shawn Michaels and Triple H, Bad Blood 2004, Hell in the Cell. Number 3 on the list is going to go to Undertaker versus Edge from SummerSlam 2008. This had been the previous year's, or no, that year's, however you say it. It had been that year's WrestleMania 24 main event with Undertaker and Edge going at it in the main event on the big stage of them all. I thought that Edge had one of the greatest WrestleMania entrances of all time, the way all the fireworks lit up the screen behind him. And I thought it was really cool. And from there, Undertaker and Edge kept on having matches from Backlash to where basically Undertaker, locked on an illegal submission hold to get the win where Vicky Guerrero stripped him from the championship. From there, they would go on to have a match at Judgment Day, which was won by countout, and then the title still remained vacant because Vicky Guerrero said that you can't win the title on a countout. From there, they went on to have a TLC at One Night Stand, which led all the way to the SummerSlam main event with the Hell in the Cell match. Everybody knows that Undertaker basically, what goes down inside that ring is basically his yard, and the Hell in the Cell had been his match from the creation of it. It always sort of seemed that Undertaker sort of fit into that Hell in the Cell sort of gimmick. And Edge was sort of the king of the TLC, going back to his days with the Hardys and the Dudleys. And they found a way to sort of mix these matches together, and it really paid off. A TLC match held inside the confines of the Hell in the Cell structure was very, very cool. I really love the fact that after, Undertaker had take the beating to Edge, and he'd walked out the champion, and it was just going to be, there was no doubt in anybody's mind that Undertaker beat Edge after Undertaker having to jump through so many hoops to finally become champion by beating this guy. As he was walking up the ramp to leave, he saw on the Titantron basically that Edge was trying to get up. Undertaker turned around and saw this as a moment of weakness, I guess you can say. Went down to the ring and finished off Edge by climbing up to the top of the ladder, choke slamming him through the middle of the ring, leaving there was no doubt in anybody's mind that basically Edge was now living in hell and he would be dead, to the fact that we weren't going to be seeing Edge for a good while. Number 3 on the list went to Undertaker and Edge, SummerSlam 2008. A great show with a great main event. For number 2 on the list, we're going to have to go all the way back to the beginning with Bad Blood 1997. It was a number 1 contenders match, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. The winner was going to get a shot at Bret Hart with Survivor Series 1997. Dun, dun, dun. We know how this really plays out, with basically that being the night of the screw job. So you know that Shawn Michaels wins this match. But it was just awesome. Basically, seeing the point of them being able to put the Hell in the Cell up, and creating this and all of the promos they could do to show us that it was going to be a Hell in the Cell match, and then telling us, what they were doing to build this cell and how it was going to be able to contain Undertaker and Shawn Michaels inside of the Hell in the Cell, while being able to keep the Hart Foundation and the members of DX out of it. But basically, when it came down to it, nobody knew what we were going to be getting. And as they lowered down the Hell in the Cell for the first time, everybody was just in awe of what they had done. And basically, when they came down to the ring, Undertaker was in the ring. Shawn Michaels came down with his allies. All of them were out there. Chyna, Rick Rude, Triple H, they all came down to ringside. And basically, once they noticed that they locked the Hell in the Cell door and there was no way for them to get into this, they went to the back, just sort of defeated, that they weren't going to be able to help their buddy out. Once they locked the Hell in the Cell door, Michaels and Undertaker really stepped up their game, really, going all at it in this fight. They were fighting in the ring. They were fighting outside of the ring. Shawn Michaels was acting like he was trying to get away from Undertaker. He was trying to, climb up the Hell in the Cell wall as if there was going to be any way for him to get out, even though it had a top on it. It was just trying to show off that, nobody was really used to the confinements of the Hell in the Cell, and nobody knew what to do once they were in there. They did a spot inside of the Hell in the Cell, basically, where Shawn Michaels was thrown into a cameraman, and they sort of used Shawn's aggression on everybody that was in the company at the time by him beating up the cameraman. They had to come down and gurney out the cameraman, which left the Hell in the Cell door unlocked. But you don't really notice this until you watch this later on. That basically they had to come into the Hell in the Cell, get this guy out of there, and that would leave for the spot that would be coming up later. But basically, because of this, Shawn finds a way to try and flight from the ring, and he runs up to the top of the Hell in the Cell. And when they put this thing together, even though it had a top on it, I don't think anybody knew that they were going to be fighting off the top of the on top of the cell. And basically, we get to see we get to see Undertaker, flip Shawn Michaels over his head, and he lands right on his back on top of the steel. But I think everybody was expecting that spot where that steel would break and Shawn would fall into the ring. We would have to wait for the Mick Foley spot. But just like Mick Foley, everybody remembers Mick Foley being thrown off the top of the Hell in the Cell by The Undertaker. And I know that Shawn Michaels did it in a little bit of a lesser way, but Shawn went off the top of the cell at Bad Blood 97 as well. He was trying to climb down the cell to get away from The Undertaker after their little fight at the top. And basically, Undertaker came over and stepped on his hands and beat on Shawn for a little bit before Shawn finally fell from the side of the Hell in the Cell through the Spanish announce table. Once they got back into the ring and they were able to lock the door up again, is where Undertaker gave Shawn Michaels a huge chair shot, which was the receipt for the SummerSlam main event when Shawn Michaels was the guest referee and swung a chair at Bret Hart but hit Undertaker, which split him wide open. From there, it would be Undertaker giving the big tombstone pile driver that made it look like the 1-2-3 was coming, where he had defeated Shawn Michaels in Hell in a Cell, only for the debuting Kane to come out of the back. You know, the guy that we'd heard so much about, that Paul Bear had told us he was coming down to the ring and he was going to be attacking him, trying to get vengeance for Undertaker leaving Paul Bear and not, rejoining the family. And this would lead to Kane versus Undertaker at the next WrestleMania. And Shawn Michaels would cover Undertaker to get the 1-2-3, and it would almost come off like Shawn got his ass kicked, but thanks to the outside interference that wasn't supposed to be there because of the Hell in the Cell, he now was the new #1 contender. And it's always going to be one of my favorites because it was the first. Just like with the first Elimination Chamber and any other match that's like that, you never know what you're getting, and you're just in shock and awe, and it's always something that you're going to remember. Number 1 on my list is my favorite Hell in a Cell match of all time, Triple H versus Mick Foley, No Way Out 2000. This one really was it. Basically, it had come down to Triple H versus Mick Foley, and Mick Foley put his career up on the line. He said that he knew that he could beat Triple H after the Royal Rumble 2000 incident, and basically he said at Hell in the Cell, he's either going to become WWF champion or he's going to, hang it up and retire. I know that Mick Foley came back, many times and had different comebacks and different matches. Hell, he even wrestled on the next pay-per-view, which would be WrestleMania 16, otherwise known as WrestleMania 2000. But if Mick Foley really had gone according to plan and had walked away and this been his last match, I think it would have been one of the most legendary matches of all time. In this match, Triple H and Cactus Jack really had a backstory that went back to all the way when Triple H was Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He had this long-running feud with Mankind, where it wasn't really leading anywhere. I think everybody will remember Triple H versus Mankind in the King of the Ring finals, but it was more than that. We saw them wrestle in a steel cage match at SummerSlam. These were just two guys that couldn't get away from each other, and of course everybody knows the night at the Garden where it was supposed to be in a street fight, Triple H going up against Mankind, and Mankind, turned the match down to Dude Love, and Dude Love turned the match down to a returning Cactus Jack. And Cactus Jack was this, overwhelming power that, was stronger than Triple H, and Triple H knew that, when Mankind, Mick Foley wrestled as Cactus Jack, and, all the rules were out the window. He was going to do anything that was possible. Inside of this, we saw, once they were in the cell, Mick Foley using the ring steps to escape from Hell in the Cell in a way that we had never seen before, with him basically throwing the steps at the cell, and to the point where the cell broke enough where he was able to run and jump through the cell, breaking it to where he fell through. Triple H would follow. They would fight on top of the announce table, where basically Cactus Jack was able to put Triple H through the announce table, and from there, Cactus Jack had a little bit of trouble trying to throw a steel chair from the floor all the way to the top of the cell, and he finally got it up there on the third try. And Cactus Jack and Triple H went up on the top of the cell, and they fought for a few minutes, which involved a flaming 2x4 wrapped with barbed wire that they were smacking around with each other. And at one point, it looked as if Cactus Jack was going to pile drive Triple H on top of the Hell in the Cell before Triple H reversed it with a backdrop, which sent Triple H, Triple H did the reverse backdrop, which sent Cactus Jack through the top of the Hell in the Cell, landing inside of the ring, leaving this huge crater where he had fallen. Once Triple H finally gets back down inside of the ring, because there must be a winner. They must have the 1-2-3. Cactus Jack, comes to life out of this crater, mainly just to stand up and take a pedigree from Triple H and get the 1-2-3. And as you see the carnage inside of the ring, mostly with the huge hole that Mick Foley made by falling off the top of the cell, and then having the feelings that that was the last time you were going to see Mick Foley, it really left you with the spot of knowing that you really saw something very cool in Mick Foley versus Triple H, and that's why it's one of my favorite. Well, it is my favorite. It is number 1 on the list of my top 5 Hell in the Cell matches.